How you doing, everybody? I'm Ken Bykoff, and welcome to the Peegs Postgame Live. Indiana 42-28 winners over the Maryland Terrapins at Memorial Stadium. I'm Ken Bykoff, and I'm excited to talk about the historic victory for the 5-0 Hoosiers. Very, very excited about what I saw from this ball club today. Can't say enough about the effort that we saw from the Hoosiers, and yet they didn't play their best game, to say the least. Indiana, 42-28 winners. First time all year the Hoosiers have not scored in a quarter, and that was in the first quarter, and they scored obviously very early in the second quarter. Loved what I saw with a response from this Indiana team. On the chat, if you could be sure to let me know if everybody could hear me, that would be really, really appreciated. And the number 812-393-2600 is the number to call. We'll be getting to your calls in just a few seconds, but I wanted to start. For the people that are listening on the podcast, we'll knock this out right away. I can't actually bring you the post-game press conference from Kurt Signetti Live, but you can hear it on when this is recorded on the post-game. Thank you, David, for letting me know you could hear me. So without any further ado, here is Kurt Signetti during his post-game press conference. Okay, that is how I'm going to handle this every week, is handle that. But Indiana, 42-28 winners. Here's what I liked. Curtis Rourke had his worst half of the season in the first half. He threw picks on back-to-back throws. He still bounced back to finish the half 13 of 19 for 192 yards, a touchdown, and those two picks. And then he finishes the game 22 of 33 for 259, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and you can't ask for anything more than that. I mean, I just think that he was just doing a fantastic job, led that offense to 42 points on the day. This is the first time Indiana has scored 30-plus points in 5 consecutive games since the 2000 season when Antoine Randall was here, and Hoosiers lost 3 of those 5 games. Instead, Indiana's 5-0 for the first time since 1967. The only previous time that they've opened 5-0 was in 1910. And as Mike Merritt, AP writer, let me know, every 57 years Indiana knocks this out and starts 5-0. So they were. It was time, and this is where they are. Continue to love how Tyson Lawton runs. 19 carries, 93 yards. He had the touchdown. Omar Cooper's touchdown catch was special and just a great throw by Curtis Rourke. Zach Horton, tight end, his catch inside the 5 was great, and he also had a number of great blocks in this one, including one on a touchdown run. He had one on a run around the end where he sealed the edge really, really well. Just a great job, and I loved the response of IU's offense at absolutely every turn. You had the 4 turnovers, which is something that I didn't like, but credit to Indiana's defense for basically handling their business after that. And I'll get to that in a second. But Indiana responded every single time at what they needed. You had Surratt with 7 catches, 128 yards, and a touchdown. 510 yards of total offense is fantastic. And against a Maryland team that's good, not great, but good. And just the fact that they were able to put up those kind of numbers really does make kind of show you where this Indiana team is from a confidence standpoint. 10 chunk plays in the passing game. Those are passes completed for 15-plus yards, 255 yards of the total, but 10 of them is impressive. 4 of the chunk plays in the run game. Now, defensively, Indiana, after the 4 turnovers, gave up a total of 1 first down and 0 points. So even when the offense was struggling to hold on to the ball, IU didn't pay a price for it. And that is really critical and a big reason why they have opened 5-0 on the season. Indiana's defense also made Maryland work and work and work for absolutely everything it got. Maryland's key scoring drives were 11 plays, 81 yards, and 10 plays, 75 yards. Now, they gave up a 75-yard touchdown run, but that also came with 11 people on the field for Maryland, not on purpose, but a key block from one of the officials sprung that run and really gave them. It was a bad luck thing, and that's something that I should mention as well. Indiana with Maryland got the bounces today. He had a couple of tip balls that Maryland ended up coming up with, got 4 turnovers, got the block from the official, and Indiana still rolls to a victory. It was really great to see on that. Hoosiers had 8 tackles for losses. Uh, Indiana was great with penalties, had just 4 of them for 38 yards. Aiden Fisher was a man among boys, 12 tackles, 5 solo stops, half a sack, half a tackle for loss. And he had, a pass breakup that doesn't really get counted as a pass breakup. He was in the way and changed the way Edwards threw the ball on a 3rd down and created a punting situation. 5 sacks overall for the defensive line, including 2 of them from James Carpenter. Just a fantastic job by this defense. The things that I didn't like, Hoosiers turned the ball over 4 times. It's the first time that Curtis Rourke has made some shaky throws along the way, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. The defense didn't create any turnovers, and that's something that you want to see in this one. And there's a lot still to clean up. And Kurt Signetti on his TV interview and talking to the coach on Fish's postgame show, he said, there's a lot to clean up, and that's going to help this team stay focused and keep everybody grounded. And that's really, really important. Defense, again, did give up the 75-yard run and 5 15-plus yard passing plays, which hasn't been a problem for this defense. But the Hoosiers just played really well. And, guys, this is a good football team. It's a good these aren't fluky things that are going on here. This is a good football team that is, look, I'm like you guys. I'm an IU alum. I have watched a ton of IU football in my life, and you keep waiting sometimes for things to go poorly. It is a response that people are conditioned to have when it comes to IU football, and you're just not having any kind of moments like that where the Hoosiers aren't bouncing back or letting a team get back into it. I give them a lot of credit for what they've done, and I also want to give a ton of credit to the crowd at the game because people were there. The attendance was over 48,000, which, okay, those are tickets sold. That's a positive, but people came to the game, they stayed in the game, and they stayed in the stadium until almost the end, despite the weather being absolute hot garbage all day. They had a fantastic crowd, and that's something to build on. The Hoosiers now next go on the road to take on Northwestern before they have a break and then come back for Nebraska. But this is an IU team that is going to have absolutely every opportunity to open the season 6-0, which is just absolutely staggering. And then they have Nebraska at home, and let's see. And Washington was not impressive. Michigan State is not blown away. This has a chance to be a really special season, and that's the bottom line on this thing. 812-393-2600 is the number to call. The lines are open, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say about this game. We got a call coming in. And right now, by the way, we have Jason on the chat says when you have 4 turnovers to none, your chances of winning is 0%. And we won by 14. It was an incredible job by these guys, and I could not agree more. Going to go ahead. There's so when you call in, you talk to a screener, and wanted to talk to on the caller right now, Bruce. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Ken. How are you?
I'm doing great. What do you got?
Well, I'm still really disappointed in how our secondary got beat on deep routes so many times.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that completely because, again, this is a defense that hasn't been giving up big plays. And this time they gave up 5 passes of 15-plus yards, 33 yards, 21, 27, 16, and 37. So those were some big mistakes that were made.
But overall, I just can't believe the resilience of this team after having so many turnovers and facing so much adversity. I mean, this is really a different IU football program.
Yeah, it's disconcerting, isn't it? And
yes,
I mean that in the most fun way, because again, I know like a lot of fans, I watch the game and I think, okay, well, maybe things are going to fall apart, or you keep waiting for that other shoe to drop. But half the team is new, and half the team doesn't have those issues that they can draw on from last year. And the fact that they're able to continue to do well, I think, is really really impressive. And a very well coached team is helping them do that.
Yeah, and I feel like we had a big improvement in talent on both sides of the ball. I think these kids can really play.
It is.
So it's a combination of good coaching and really influx of new talent.
Yeah, it's a ton of fun, and it's hopefully just going to get a lot more fun. Bruce, thank you so much for the call. We got a couple more callers on the line. And here, caller, go ahead. Tell me your name, where you're from, and what you got.
Ken, this is Ryan from Bloomington.
Hi, Ryan.
I just think this team should be so proud. We're 5-0. We're about to be ranked. The whole team showed up. I'm just really proud of fans showed up, student section showed up. This is going to be a special year. We should just be excited. So let's go Hoosiers.
Well, thank you so much for the call, Ryan, and that's something that is really important about Indiana being ranked. I wanted to talk about the fact that Indiana received votes in the last couple of weeks, and this week I think they would have been 27 if they went out to 30. Indiana was ranked in the preseason in 2021. They were ranked during the 2020 season. That 2020 season, however, was the COVID season, and so it was a little bit of an odd year, obviously. This one, there's no question that this is a team that deserves to be ranked, I think is going to be ranked, and has a lot that it's going to be able to build on.
And I think that, there's been an excuse why you can't go to the games, and, there's rain today. It was hot last week, but they really showed up. They stayed there for the whole game, and, there's a reason they stayed there because, we played our butts off, so.
Well, Ryan, thank you so much for the call. Really appreciate it, and I couldn't agree more. And again, the crowd was really fantastic. I was really, really happy with the fact that that somebody has that they answered the call from Kurt Signetti. They didn't sell the place out, and the weather was hot garbage again, but people were there and they stayed, and it was that staying part, I think, that is the next step here. Next, I'm going to go our next caller, Kevin. Kevin, what you got?
Hey, Ken, how you doing today?
I'm doing great.
A couple of things. I agree with you on the fans, and I wonder with the tennis day how many actual tickets were sold that were no shows. You know what I'm saying? Because
Sure.
They're worried about the weather. I'm guessing at least a couple thousand, but that's you keep doing. As the Signetti said, you build it, they will come, and we just got to put one step on the ladder at a time, and that's what he's doing. As far as the ranking goes, I don't think Signetti cares about that, honestly, and I say it from this aspect. He's only worried about the next game. And I think this week there's going to be some discussions with the defensive unit from this aspect. And they played hard when we needed them to play hard, without question, on the turnovers. But they still have a tendency to get a little relaxed at times. End of the first half, those kinds. Today was the beginning of the second half. I think that's going to be an issue that's going to be addressed a little bit. But I would say this about the defense. I think that they're big enough, they're strong enough, they understand, and they understand it may not be as nice a week as far as detail goes for them, but they understand it needs to be, and they need to work that little piece out. And then I think that defense is as good as anybody. When they get those little kinks worked out, I just think they're as good. I don't think the game was as close as the score, considering the fact that we probably left 10 points on the field. The last thing is this. Did I understand it right? That Michigan held on to win 27-24 against Minnesota? I'm in the car, heading down to southern Indiana, and I just called a friend back home, and he said, yeah, 27-24, and Michigan had to recover an onside kick, and it was controversial.
Yeah, it was a 27-24 win by Michigan, and at home as well.
Yeah, well, they were up 21-3 at halftime.
Yeah.
So that means in the second half, they basically did squat when it's all said and done. And the defense fell apart in the second half. I mean, if you look at how this defense is, Michigan is, they got the greatest defensive lineman in the world, and they got the greatest this. They always have this. That's just how it is. And I live in Michigan, and, you and I have talked before, and and you pick up the Detroit News, and oh my God, they slurp and drool all over them. I will tell you something. From old days of coaching, Michigan's got problems. They really do. They're not that good offensively. They can't do anything but run the football. And if the guy from USC last week had not changed the defense on that last drive and gone back to the forefront and gave them all these gaps, and in all honesty, Lincoln Riley and the defensive coordinator are catching hell out in USC right now because of the fact that was the worst coach game in the second half that anybody could ever see. Michigan's got problems. Michigan's going to come down to our place. I would not be shocked if we beat Michigan this year. Would not shock me a lick. Your thoughts?
Well, I certainly appreciate the call, Kevin. Thank you so much for listening in the car, and thank you for sticking around in the stadium as well. That's a lot of football to be played between now and then. And Michigan, will have plenty of opportunities to get kind of their house in order. But look, the way Indiana has played to this point, by the time you get to November, that Michigan game is in Bloomington, November 9th, you're going to have every opportunity to compete at the very least. And what I've seen allows the time is there to allow this defense to continue to improve, for the offense to continue to improve and build on all this and build confidence. So I'm not going to make any kind of predictions about a game that is, 6-7 weeks away, but I'll tell you this, looking at the schedule going forward, whether it's Northwestern or Nebraska or Washington or Michigan State or even Michigan and Purdue, Ohio State's going to be a challenge, but are any of those games not winnable given by what you've seen from this IU team to this point, both offensively and defensively? I don't know. To me, it looks really nice. Just how the schedule is setting up and the way this team's playing. Got to avoid injuries, but the Hoosiers are in good shape right now. Again, Kevin, thanks for the call. Be safe driving home. 812-393-2600 is the number. Jason on the chat says Coach Sig has a chance to be the first head coach in Indiana history to win 10 games in a season. Indiana has also only won 9 games in a season 3 times in their history. This is history in the making. And just getting off to a 5-0 start is historic. It's only the third time the Hoosiers have done this. And it's exciting. And it's hard not to get excited because it's real football. And it's a real good team that's balanced on both sides of the ball. I think that it's really exciting. Going to go to our next caller. Thank you so much for hanging on the line. Give me your name, where you're from, and what you got.
Ken, this is Zach from Atlanta. I don't got much for you, but we're 5-0. We got a chance to go 6-0 next Saturday. I'm getting married next Saturday. We could secure a bowl next Saturday on my wedding day. We're 5-0, Ken. Let's go. Indiana football. I smoke a cig every single win for Coach Signetti. I'm planning to smoke 1,000 cigarettes next Saturday. Let's get it done against Northwestern. Let's go, Ken. 5-0. Let's get to 6. Woo!
Well, congratulations on getting married, and take time to say I do in between the 1,000 cigarettes, because that seems like too many. So that is something that I think is exciting, and that's the kind of excitement that you want to hear along the way. And it is just going to be a ton of fun to see how this team continues. By the way, he mentioned he's getting married next week. There actually won't be a post-game call-in show next week after the Northwestern game because I have to attend a wedding of a family member. So there will be no call-in show after the Northwestern game. The opportunity to do it after the game it isn't going to be there. And I like being married, and I love you guys, but I ain't taking that kind of heat from my wife. No, sir. So I'm not going to do that. But it's going to be exciting to see if Indiana is going to be able to do it. And with all the IU alumni that's up in the Chicago area, that's going to be a very heavy IU football crowd, and that's going to be exciting. 812-393-2600 is the number. We have Douglas on the chat says, Ken, when's the last time you've seen an IU defense that's good? And that's not hard. I mean, Tom Allen's defenses in 17, 18, 19, they were really good. And it was exciting to watch that. I'm a defensive first guy to begin with. I'm a big believer in defense. I grew up watching the Chicago Bears in the 80s, and that to me is kind of your standard to that. But it is an IU team that takes good angles. It swarms to the ball in the way that you want to see. It is a defense that doesn't hang its head, and that to me is a real key because in the past, you've seen Indiana give up a big play and then kind of hang its head, and then that one play turns into another big play, and it just snowballs. And that isn't where we're at with this. You know, this is an IU football team that gave up 400 yards of offense today. And so that's a bit more than I know that Coach Stig would like to see. It's the first time Indiana has given up more than 2 touchdowns in a game this season, and they give up 28 points. Again, one of them on a fluke kind of play. Think about all the things that went right for Maryland today. You had 4 turnovers from the Hoosiers. They turned the ball over 4 times. You had 2 tip passes that ended up being caught by Maryland. Well, one of them to keep a drive alive. It should have been a 4th down. You had a catch where a guy makes a catch falling backwards, lands on his butt and back, and he's able to catch the ball. Terrible angles on that. On if he actually kept. And we were joking in the press box. It said 1 cheek equals 1 knee. How does that work? But it was the fact that Maryland had a lot of bounces go their way. A lot of good things happened for the Terrapins that are those 50-50 situations that IU typically loses. And here it is that we have Indiana being able to bounce back thanks to that defense, despite these bounces not going their way. Really is exciting to see, to say the least. Got a caller on the line. We'll get to Dan in just a second, but I wanted to start. Roger says he was born in 1961, and my father, whose name was also Roger, went to the Rose Bowl with my mom in 1968. They've been proud ticket holders for eons and neons. Sadly, he passed away in 2004, but this one I give you. Great sentiment, Roger. And that's one of the things that IU football, especially the diehard fans that have been coming for so long, that's why this is so exciting. There are a lot of programs or several programs out there where starting 5-0 is a ho-hum thing. And you could hear from the callers and just everybody's attitude that it has been fantastic. Going to go back to the phone lines now. Dan, how you doing? What you got?
Hey, Ken, Dan here from Ellettsville.
Hi.
Great to talk to you again. Just wanted to say, great game today. You look great. Like you were saying just now, showed a lot of perseverance, a lot of, that's what has impressed me so much with this team is just like how gritty and like determined they are. And this has definitely been one of the years. This has been maybe the only year I can remember going to an IU football game, and I've been coming for 30-some years at this point, where IU made the other team seem desperate. Like you could feel it in the air that Maryland was panicking in that 4th quarter. Sure. And that was honestly a great feeling. Honestly, no questions to ask. I thought the team looked great. It was some of the turnovers. Nobody loves to see that, but you still managed to win by double digits on a 4 turnover, a negative margin. Like, you can't complain about that. So,
well, Dan, I actually have a question for you because
sure.
you make a lot of good points about, just the good things that Indiana is doing. I'm not seeing one to this, so I'm going to ask you and other people who are listening, is there something that you've seen for Indiana that's a negative that you don't think isn't something that could be cleaned up relatively easily?
The only thing that I would say is maybe just a little bit of lack of depth on the defensive side of the ball. But it's such a new team. Everybody's gelling together. But my only concern is who's next man up after that after the first line of defense.
Is that simply because you haven't seen them yet?
Maybe a good bit of it. But we did get beat on a 70-yard run. Like, I mean, the ref was the 12th man on that play, but nobody loves to see that.
No, but again, that's the kind of thing that could be cleaned up quickly. And so I just wanted to ask you that, and leave it to other callers. Dan, thanks so much for the phone call.
Thanks, Ken. Appreciate it.
812-393-2600 is the number. Jason says ESPN Game Day needs to come to Bloomington October 19th for the Indiana-Nebraska game. Interesting, concept if they're going to be able to. That could be really, really interesting. That will also be, if I'm not mistaken, that's IU's next home game is against Nebraska. So the fact that it's September 28th and Indiana doesn't play in Bloomington again until October 19th hurts a little bit in terms of momentum, but hopefully they'll be able to continue to build off of this along the way and get to that point. If you're 6-0 with Nebraska coming to town, it's going to get a lot of attention, to say the least. Jason on the chat says, Dad and I had season tickets during the HEP era. Most exciting time since then, I feel. Love the show, Ken. Thanks. Appreciate the kind words. The key for me is I feel bad for fans that they weren't able to be in the stadium in 2020. Because I was lucky enough to be able to cover those games during COVID, and it was exciting. And it's unfortunate that fans weren't able to be there. The 2019 season is something that gets overlooked quite a bit as well. But that was an 8-5 year, and that's because they lost in the bowl game. So it was 8-4, playing the Gator Bowl. It was an exciting season, to say the least. This feels different to me, though. Because that IU team in 2019, you liked what you saw, but it was a 34-24 win over Ball State in the opener. They waxed Eastern Illinois, then they got blasted by Ohio State 51-10. Connecticut, they beat them 38-3, but then you had a loss to Michigan State. That was in East Lansing 40-31. You had that. Penn State they lost to. Michigan they lost to. They needed double overtime to beat Purdue and win the Old Oaken Bucket in that one. Indiana has rolled to wins. This 14-point victory over Maryland, which was basically a 21-point win. They scored a garbage time touchdown, scored another touchdown on that 75-yard run. That to me it feels like a 21-point win, even though the scoreboard says something different. This is not an IU team that is running into problems. They are getting the job done, and when their backs have been up against the wall, today was the first time that they've seen any kind of real adversity, and yet they were able to come out with the victory. And so you got to be happy with that. 812-393-2600 is the number. Lines are open. I want to hear from you. I'm fascinated by the discussion about smoking 1,000 cigarettes that's going on the chat, and basically him saying, 1,000 cigarettes is only 5 cartons. Holy cow, man, that's a smoky place. Tony says no press conference. I can't run the press conference live due to rights issues with the Big Ten Network and other places, but on the podcast I can, because it's not going live. And quite honestly, while I'm taking calls and doing the show, I can't then edit in and download the post-game press conference. But be sure to check out the podcast afterwards along the way. Another person in chat says ESPN will choose some SEC game over a Big Ten game. Quite possibly. But you know what? I'm not worried about where game day is. I'm worried about people just getting their asses in the stands and staying there along the way. I think that's really important, because the weather was terrible today, and I understood people staying away. But that Nebraska game, especially if Indiana beats Northwestern next week, they go ahead and they're going to have a lot of attention there. Tony on the chat says, do they let it air on the radio with Fish? Fish talks to Sig and all the head coaches before he goes and talks to the rest of the media press conference. So no, Fish doesn't get to do it either. So that's how that works. Jason says Dolson better be getting ready to do whatever it needs to be done to make sure Coach Sig stays put for a long time. I guarantee you that's what we got. Going to go back to the calls. We got Mike, who wants to ask a couple of questions. Mike, how you doing? What you got?
Hi, Ken. I'm doing great. Driving home from the game. I did want to say before I ask my question, the students really did come up big today, and they were loud, and they were the loudest part of the stadium. And I've been so disappointed in them, and now so pleased with their response. I thought they were great. I did want to ask a couple of questions. One is, can you comment on the 6 players that left the program this last week? Maybe why or what's going on there? And then the other question is, what's the recruiting schedule? When can we expect to start cashing in on this? This is obviously going to make a difference, and I'm just curious, are there any visitations now? I know that usually kids are in the stands visiting. I haven't heard much. Heard a lot about basketball, but not much about football. That's how. Those are my 2 questions.
Well, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Let's go through a bunch of those things. Let's start with the fans. And the fans were there, and they make a difference. And the fact that they stayed and their energy, I think, really helped the Hoosiers quite a bit. With the recruiting standpoint, there has been, in terms of getting commits going forward. It's gonna take some time for those guys to commit, to make their decisions. They're going on trips. They're focusing on their high school season. That's really the key with that. You have guys that are going to be hosted. I know Nebraska is going to be a big weekend because it's going to be homecoming weekend, a big opponent. Indiana is doing good. So there's going to be quite a few people coming in for that as well. But there were a lot of players that were in town that are guys that are expected to be on campus. I don't know if they actually came, but you had several IU commits, whether it was Kyler Garcia from Tennessee, a defensive lineman. He was there. Matt Merrick was scheduled to be there, offensive lineman from Illinois. Eva Parker from Indiana, from an offensive lineman from the state of Indiana. And then you have quarterback from Ohio, Grant Kinney. He's a Colgate commit, but he's on campus this weekend. You have Ozzie Pollard, a defensive lineman, a bevy of class of 26 guys, class of 26, even a class of 28 guys there. So guys are here, and the weather did not cooperate in any way, shape, or form. But that is something that continues with this ball club. Just building that schedule for everything like that. I'm going to go now to a special caller, Jared Kelly from Peegs.com at the game. Jared, 42-28 victory for the Hoosiers. Just what are your thoughts on what you saw at Memorial Stadium today?
Yeah, the one word, I keep coming back to, first of all, thanks for having me on, Ken. I'm on the football field right now, standing at the 10-yard line, kind of taking everything in. But no, the one word I keep coming back to with this team is just resilient. And I'm sure, you've talked about this on your show, previously, but just, every single time Indiana's offense, we saw those 2 turnovers in the first 2 drives. Indiana's defense comes back and gets stops. And then later in the game, it kind of flips, right? Indiana's defense gets a touchdown. Indiana's offense comes back, and it just felt like every single time, Indiana was dealt a blow. They came back with an even harder punch. And, it's just so good to see, refreshing to see an Indiana team that doesn't get down on itself. And we've heard Cignetti talk about, it's next play up. And a lot of people, chalk that up as coach speak, but this is the Indiana team he's built. And, this is a legit football team. And I think if you didn't know now you know.
Well, I asked one of the callers, I wanted to check with you. You look at what the negatives have been for this team. today you had the turnovers, you had the defense give up a couple of big plays, but through these first 5 games, I am not haven't seen a ton to really pick apart with this team, or certainly nothing that doesn't seem like it can't be fixed in the very near future and get fixed this season. There have been times when issues, whether it was speed, depth, just could not possibly be fixed during the season. Do you see anything that is concerning, that is a negative that can't be fixed this year?
No, I mean, that's a great point that you made, that everything is fixable, that we've seen the issues crop up. Everything is fixable in season. Nothing that's going to take, a year plus to kind of turn around. I would say if there's maybe one weakness, maybe not weakness is the right word, but just one area I'm still kind of looking at as Big Ten play rolls on is the secondary. We saw them give up some big plays today, a couple of busted coverages. We saw that one pass interference that bailed out Maryland that resulted in a touchdown. So I'm kind of curious to see how that room holds up. And we saw even today, Maryland, Ty Felton, the Big Ten's leading receiver, he went down in the second quarter, so it was kind of tough to know how Indiana's defense would have responded to that. But D'Angelo Pond's obviously the number one cornerback. He's only 5'8", so I do wonder how that's going to play, against bigger receivers, bigger, faster receivers in the Big Ten. So that would be maybe my only one concern. And then also on the defensive line, Indiana starters are playing a ton of snaps, through just 5 games. So I do kind of worry if they're gonna be able to hold up this season, just the sheer amount of volume they're playing so early on. But other than that, offensively, no concerns. The offensive line continues to make progress every week. We know what the skill positions can do. Curtis Work is an absolute veteran. So yeah, I mean, a lot of my concerns would just be defensively, but like you said, it's a lot of stuff you can kind of fix in season week to week.
Well, the Hoosiers off to a 5-0 start. What, I guess, are you most encouraged about for when it comes to Northwestern and Nebraska in the next couple of weeks?
Mm-hmm. These are very winnable games, and we knew this coming into the season that it would be, but now that the season's kind of played out and we've seen, Northwestern struggle, we've seen Nebraska struggle, there's a real possibility that Indiana can keep this thing rolling, go 7-0, 8-0, 9-0, what have you. The biggest thing is that Indiana just never seems like a team that's going to, wilt, I think you would say, under the pressure. Even in these road environments, we haven't seen them on the road except for that UCLA game, which, obviously wasn't a huge home field advantage for them. But it just seems like a team that is so, poised. And a lot of times you hear that, obviously programs take after the personality of their head coach. And this is really what we're seeing playing out here with Cignetti and this team. And, and you do have to, give a lot of credit to the JMU guys that came over, because I think a lot of people kind of, pass by that as, oh, okay, JMU guys lower level. We'll see how much that actually matters for culture building. But, this Indiana team, they just keep chugging along no matter who's in front of them. And I think that's going to serve them super well going forward.
Well, Jared, thank you so much. I know you got a lot more work to do. You continue the great work on Peegs.com. Check it out and do your best to try to dry off quickly.
Thanks, guys. I'll see you.
Take care. 812-393-2600 is the number. I'm going to turn to our next caller who's been on hold for 8 minutes. Give me your name, your number, and where you what you got.
Hi, my name is Roger Chase. My dad had the same name, been ticket holders since he went to school in the late 50s, early 60s. My dad went to the Rose Bowl and talked how exciting that was with my mom in 68. I've seen great seasons. I've seen mediocre. I've seen terrible seasons. I don't think I've ever been this excited for not only the coach, but for the students, as well as the players on the team that never seem to give up. And I think that's really what's making this season exciting. My heart dropped a little bit when we kept having some turnovers, but, we came back, we fought, we corrected what we needed to correct. Our running game is awesome. It's not just one guy. It's several people. Our pass receivers, we have several that can catch the ball and make a difference. I agree with the gentleman from Peegs that just talked. We really could have a 7, 8, 9 win season and roll the dice, but I'm trying to look just one game at a time. And I said in my text, my cousin's son is listening to you from Albuquerque, New Mexico. So we have multi generations, listening and excited at the same time. But if there is a heaven that allows our parents to watch the IU football season, this is a great one to watch. And I'm sure my dad's looking down and is really happy. And that's all I wanted to say.
Well, that's really great, Roger, and thank you so much for the call. And that is part of the fun of sports is just being able to share that with your father, your son, and pass it on along the way. That's why Charlie, the intern, joining me on the show last week was really, really special to me, because it's passing on that love of sports, and you get that with football and basketball and so many things. It's really great. I've cursed him with being a Bears fan. I've cursed him with being a White Sox fan, which record-breaking White Sox, historic White Sox. That was very excited. But what a great sentiment from Roger, and thank you so much. One thing I forgot to answer about the caller a couple of seconds ago about 6 players who are no longer with Indiana football, and it's Nahai Logan, Joshua Rudolph, Tyreek McDaniel, Eben Person, Neil Campbell, and Aaron Stewart. Person, Campbell, and Stewart didn't play in any of the Hoosiers' first 4 games. The other 3 played sparingly on defense and special teams. The key about them leaving is that once you play 4 games, you lose that red shirt opportunity. So if you want to go somewhere and not lose a year of eligibility, you had to leave this week. And so that's why the main reason why they left is for different opportunities. And that is their prerogative. They could certainly deal with that. Doug from Atlanta, you're our next caller. What you got?
Hey, Ken, I was curious what you're thinking about the O-line these days. I think Bob Bostad has got the guys playing at a level that we haven't seen for an O-line in Bloomington in quite a long time. What are your thoughts?
I was really impressed with what I saw from them. I think that they've done a good job of basically establishing that line of scrimmage. There was a little more inconsistency with them today, because there were several times, especially earlier in the game, when Rourke was pressured basically by guys getting pushed back into his lap. But still, you can't complain too much about that, because this is still an IU team that ran for 151 yards on the day, that threw for 359, had 510 yards of total offense, 28 first downs. They did a very, very nice job of improving as the game went on. And not only that, but they tired out Maryland as the game went on as well. And so, yeah, Bob Bostad has done a fantastic job with that group. They've stayed remarkably healthy, which knock on wood about that. But they're developing and they're building confidence along the way. And when you can build confidence against some non-conference teams, and then you have a couple of conference victories that you're winning by comfortable margins, it certainly does bode well for where it goes. And not only that, it shows the recruits who are watching that this is a system that they are going to be able to thrive in. And I think that is really key here in all of this.
Well, I'd add that the conditioning is awful good too, because if they're wearing down another Big Ten level offensive line, and Maryland has always gotten credit over the years for having very good offensive lines, I think that is a huge plus for IU to be able to wear down Maryland's defensive line. I'm really excited to see an offensive line blocking for a quarterback the way that we've seen so far.
Absolutely. That is absolutely the case. Appreciate the call, Doug, and appreciate the support.
Yep. Have a good one, Ken.
Take care. 812-393-2600 is the number. Ross on the chat says, do you feel like football with Sig at the helm, easier schedules could overtake men's basketball in terms of fandom? It's been 5 games, so let's pump the brakes on that. But I do think that there would be it's an exciting time, to say the least. And Indiana basketball is going to have an opportunity to have a good year as well. I have some question marks about that, because there's a ton of talent, but how are they going to mesh? Bottom line is, I do like what I've seen. It's fun to dream, and it's a ton of fun to dream, and I think Indiana fans would prefer both programs to be good at the same time. Brad, you're our next caller. Where are you from? What you got?
Hey, Ken, what's up? This is Brad. I'm calling in from Austin, Texas, from Southern Indiana. Originally,
Fantastic.
but yeah, just a couple of position groups that stood out to me I wanted to talk to you about. I would agree with the previous caller. The offensive line is doing a pretty good job, and really the running backs are just, they puncture the line of scrimmage, and it seems like they get at least 3 or 4 yards a pop. But yeah, the running backs and the defensive line just seem to be doing a really good job to me, and it's fun to watch those guys on the D line kind of dominate the game. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, they're very disruptive, to say the least. They had 8 tackles for losses today, and that's really exciting. They are just disruptive, and that is what you want. They get their hands up, and they occupy blockers to open up lanes for linebackers who are blitzing along the way. I really like the way they get off the ball. That's been something that's bothered me for a long time about this IU program, that guys are a little bit slow getting off the ball, but that hasn't been the case with this group, and I am very happy with what I've seen from that defensive line. What do you like in particular about that running back room, outside of the fact that you have a lot of different guys? What do you like about the way they run?
It's great that they're so interchangeable, right? Like, really, you could all 3 of them seem to be so similar in terms of their skill set. We haven't seen a lot of them. We haven't seen them catch a lot of passes, but I'm confident that they can. And just they get downhill, you know what I mean? Hopefully they can do a little bit better job taking care of the ball. Defensive line had some false starts, but yeah, I mean, the running back room seems really interchangeable and versatile, and I like that.
Yeah, I love the way that Lawton and Ellison and Black all run. I like how they hit the hole. They are patient, but when they want to go, they're decisive and they go. They put their foot in the ground and go, and finish off runs by picking up some extra yards, even running through contact. So, yeah, those 2 positions, when you have that, and then you have a quarterback that is not only competent but really, really good, and a group of receivers that make it so that you have to guard all over the field, it makes it for a nice balanced offense, and that helps that offensive line build its confidence as well. Do you have anything else, Brad?
Were you ever a little concerned with Curtis Rourke today? I felt like they allowed the defensive backs to be pretty physical throughout the game today. I don't know if that necessarily led to any of the interceptions, but I felt pretty confident with him throughout. Were you a little concerned at all after you saw any of those picks?
First time that I've seen a couple of throws where it's like, wow, where was that? Where did that come from? So that was the only part of it that I was surprised by, because we generally haven't seen that from Curtis very much. But he is, look, that's going to happen. It's a wet day. You're going to have some throws you want back. Any quarterback's going to have that. But nothing, again, that I think is a long-term concern that I've seen with him, because he also, that ball to Cooper on the touchdown, I mean, that was placed perfectly. It was a hell of a throw, and if we're going to nitpick about a couple of throws that he had, he's doing great. So there's nothing there that I really was very super concerned about.
Great to see McCulley get Cuddy too. So yeah, appreciate
sure
what you do, Tim. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Brad. Appreciate the call. 812-393-2600 is the number. Wanted to just it's been a ton of fun to watch all of this play out today, to say the least. And I appreciate people calling from Texas and Atlanta and all over the place. I'm just really, really, again, just pleased with how the call-in show is going. Your support means the absolute world to me with this. Lines are open. We'll give them a couple more minutes if you want to call in and make a call. But Douglas says that Jay, talking to on the chat to another person, Jason, I think Scott Dolson is well aware of what needs to be done. He's known Scott a long time and definitely gets it when it comes to making sure IU football drives the revenue of IU athletics. And, I know that Scott has get some criticism along the way. Scott deserves a lot of credit for the way that he has handled some different things over the past couple of years. Tom Allen, his buyout was substantial. And yet Scott was able to make that happen because he knew that he couldn't take a step back, and he certainly got a guy that looks like he's a real home run hire in Kurt Signetti. Can't complain about much anything that he has done. He has given the support needed for all the sports to if not thrive, at least give them the tools and resources they need to be successful. He has navigated a time in college sports in which there are it's a changing landscape, and I think he's done a decent job of working with that and trying to figure things out, and he's trying to be fair and everything that goes along with it. And Scott has shown that he's willing to spend money in order to solve some of these problems when need be, and he deserves a lot of credit for that. Brian says, nice win. IU covers the spread again, which apparently I'm told it was 7. I don't gamble on these games because it's just kind of a ethics thing for me. Only game that I'll do is do some online betting for the Super Bowl, but that's just kind of more fun bets. Will they be favored over Northwestern by next week? I think there's no question they'll be favored. When it comes to setting lines, I don't know how they do that, but I think there's no question. You're sitting there at 5-0, taking on a Northwestern team that is going to have some work to do. Interesting that this is also a Northwestern team. I believe they're on bye this week. I think so, which would make it so that this would be the second team Indiana has played that is on bye. Yeah, they're on bye this week. Second time this year already that Indiana has played a team that's had 2 weeks to prep for them. And I am not a conspiracy theorist, but that seems odd for the Big Ten to put that together. That seems real odd to me. Brian also added, will this be enough to get IU ranked in the top 25 next week? I believe it will be. There's gonna be plenty of people that are gonna look at this and say, wow, this is something that is gonna be something to build off of, to say the least. Jeremy says, did Donovan McCauley log a snap outside of his touchdown? I don't know how many snaps he played. That one I can't help you with. Obviously, he had that one touchdown. If he did play more snaps, I did not notice him on the field, but I also don't keep track of who's on the field every single play. So maybe he was on for more, but I know that when McCauley came out onto the field, that was something that we noted right away, and he immediately got the touchdown. So that is really important and a nice pickup for Donovan McCauley. You want him to be a bigger part of what the Hoosiers are doing, but honestly, the depth that's there. If you have a guy with McCauley's talent who's going to be super fresh for the second half of the season, that's going to be a huge positive. Wanted to get to our next caller, Jeff from Northwest Ohio. Jeff, how you doing? What you got?
Hey, Ken, good to talk to you. Always listen. I appreciate you doing the show and what you do on a weekend wake-up basis with letting us Northwest Ohioans be informed about our alma mater. Hey, I wanted to let you know, first and foremost, my ears perked up when you said Grant Kenny was on the sidelines. Just to let you know, he is a multi-sport athlete, quarterback, about 6'5", 6'6", last night. And he also, wanted to mention, he plays in one of the power leagues here in Northwest Ohio, the Northern Lakes League. Last night, ran for an 88-yard touchdown, ran for a total of 199 yards. So he is quality. He is an up-and-coming athlete, even though he has committed to Colgate. But I think if Kurt puts the pressure to change that commitment, it could be good things for Indiana. The question I had for you is really something that's kind of stood out for me this year, and I'm really taken by the intelligence factor that exists as far as the game is concerned. Because over the years, I'm sure you've been in the same boat. You you get frustrated by the stubbornness of the play calling, and I just feel like that's gone. What do you think?
Well, I'll say this much. Let me start with Grant Kinney. At least he was scheduled to be here. I didn't see him on the sidelines. I don't. Maybe other people did. I haven't talked to Matt Weaver about that from Peegs.com, who's the king of this kind of stuff. If he was here, he was at least scheduled to be here. With the weather, I don't know if he made it, but at least he was scheduled to be here. With the play calling from Mike Shanahan, I think that there have not been a ton of plays that have been head scratchers, to say the least. I know he hasn't gotten too cute with things either. And that to me is something that has been a trap that I think IU coordinators have fallen into along the way, where basically they make some odd play calls at odd times, just trying to be cute about it. And to me, that is not something that we have seen. And for instance, you had a short yardage situation. I want to say it was in the second quarter, might have been the third quarter, where it looked like it was a short yardage situation. They were going to run a tush push, is what it looked like. And instead of that, they kind of flared out on a little toss to the outside, but they picked up the first down. It was a well-designed play. And it was a well-executed play, which obviously makes any kind of play look a hell of a lot better. But the simple fact that they ran that play allows them to kind of build on that in the next couple of weeks. Next time they line up for that, every coach sees every play. It's going to be really, really interesting to see how a team reacts when they line up in the unusual kind of tush-push formation where you got the quarterback under center and the two running backs right next to him, a guy next to him kind of push him forward, and then they ran a toss. Well, hell, going forward, you could run a lot of different things out of that set that's going to keep the defense guessing, and those kind of things are what impresses me about some of these play calls.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up. I remember looking at my wife and saying, my God, that does not exist in the last two decades, as far as the intelligence behind that, but also I'm glad you said the word execution, because that is something that they're hammering into these kids in the 4 days leading up to the game. The final thing, and I'll leave you with this, I was curious. I haven't been to a game in a long time. Off the football field, what's the reception been on Buffalo's being one of the sponsored foods there at the stadium? Any idea?
No idea. No, none at all. I know that there's. I just haven't had a chance to talk to fans who've I haven't seen a lot of people talking about the game day fair along the way. I do know that the new places that they have set up, whether it's Social Cantina or Buffalo's or some of the other places, it's a little bit different atmosphere in terms of that. We're stuck with the chicken tenders that they've had week after week after week in the press box. But it's hey, you know what? Buffalo's is tasty as can be, and so it's tough to get too upset about that.
It was great hearing on the broadcast the noise, especially third downs, fourth downs. But I still it's like nails on a chalkboard looking and seeing those corner sections, those damn corner sections over the years that just I remember. I'm trying to think of what year it was. I graduated in '95. I remember Penn State coming to Memorial and absolutely I think they were number one at the time, and absolutely being stuffed into those corners. I hope it can get back to that. I really do.
Well, thank you so much for the call, Jeff. And, if you keep winning these games, the people are going to show up. And when the weather isn't terrible, they'll show up. That Nebraska game is going to be really, really interesting, to say the least, with that. Last call for calls, 812-393-2600. We're going to wrap this thing up, but it's certainly I could take one more call if you would like. On the chat, Brian says that the first pick was a bad throw for Curtis Rourke, and the second pick was a bad route. the first pick that Curtis Rourke threw was the ball sailed on him, and the way he reacted, I feel like he didn't see the safety over the top. And so when he let it go, it's one of those throws where like, oh, I wanted that one back. That wasn't what I was shooting for. So there was that. The second one, the route might have been a little bit deep, but the defender also cut out underneath that route as well. And so he was able to get to the ball. Either way, Curtis bounced back from those picks really, really, really well. He bounced back like the veteran that he is, and that's why he impresses me because of that poise, because of how nothing seems to rattle him. And the beautiful thing for me is it's great for the younger quarterbacks on the team to learn about how a guy like that goes about things. And that is something that has been missing for the most part with this team. And I've talked about about it before, that this is an IU team that just really has been lacking some of that veteran leadership, I guess it is, and a veteran guy, a mentor for some of the younger players. I think that is something that has been just flat out missing from this program. And now they're here. You think about it. Last year, Brendan Sorsby, Taven Jackson, those guys, they were thrown into the fire. They had to get right after it, and they had nobody to really lean on for that. To build off of the year before, you had Connor Bazelak, who was there, but again, he isn't somebody that was able to do a whole bunch, and he ended up losing his starting job and coming back. That isn't a guy that it can be seen as a mentor, but Curtis Rourke is that guy. He's a mature kid. He's a poised kid. He shows people, what it is that they need to do. And I think that is really just really critical for this team. The Hoosiers have opened the season 5-0 following a 42-28 victory over the Maryland Terrapins, moved to 5-0 on the season. Just an exciting time for IU football, to say the least. They're next going to be in Bloomington on homecoming against Nebraska, October 19th. They take on Northwestern next week in Evanston. Then they have their bye. I'm going again, no call-in show after the game last week because I have some family things to take care of, but we'll be back for the rest of the season. And again, basketball call-in shows are coming up as well. People have said that they want to hear them. I want to do them. I'm all about it. So again, it is 42-28 is your final. Thank you so much for all the callers. This is the best show we've had so far. And it's just really, really exciting to see this grow. Certainly, it's fun to watch this team improve week over week. 5-0. It's a little bit hard to wrap your head around, but hey, it is what it is. I guess maybe we have to wrap our head around 6-0 next week. Well, that's all the time we have on Peegs Postgame Live. I want to thank you for listening. I want to remind you to visit Peegs.com for the very best in IU football and basketball that you're going to find anywhere. Nobody covers Hoosier recruiting better than Jeff Rabjohns, Matt Weaver, Trevor Andershock, and Jared Kelly. So come be a part of a thriving and exciting community at Peegs.com. Folks, you are not going to be disappointed. Folks, we're out of time, but for now, and for Jeff, Matt, Trevor, and Jared, I'm Ken Bykoff saying thanks for listening, everybody.